Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Monday edition of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, John, and the queen of us all, Kiki, with her long face, who jumped into my lap before it was even time. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, good girl. Yeah. It's my good dog. Here's my good dog. Who's my good dog? Who's my monstrous dog? Yep, hi, monster dog. Yes, hello. Sorry for the lateness. My internet's was like this morning. Totally seized up. Hi there, Bubba. And I didn't notice right away. Like, I thought it was cool. And then I noticed that it was just spinning and not loading. And I was like, oh, no. So, yeah, so there was a last minute restart of the router, which always takes. Good girl. All right, you want to find your bully and go chew? I'll leave the door open if you're a good girl. Yeah, good girl. But yeah, so last minute reboot of ye old router, leading to a lateness issue. But you know what, it is what it is. The internet out here, it is what it is. Hi, Papa. What? Ugh. And my eyes are watery a little bit today, so I'm trying not to rub them because I have lotion hands. All right. Yes, we had a good weekend. We played Diablo. Actually, I did a fair amount of writing this weekend. I did not just, unlike David, I did not just play Diablo. He's like level 55. I'm level 24. That says it all, really. But yeah. So, and I watched my Overwatch League, and I wrote a lot because I had Write Club yesterday, so it was good to get back to Write Club. And the book draws perilously close to an end. And just like all of you, kind of nattered at me, I'm considering releasing it at the end of August instead of in over ReaperCon, essentially. So yeah, so that's where we are right now. I'm on level, I think I'm in chapter 31 now, and it looks like I've got like 36 or 37 chapters. This book is longer than East of the Sun, by at least 10,000 words. So I think that's common though. Like if you think about it, in most duologies or even in trilogies, the last book tends to be the big fat book. So BFB, the big fat book. So yeah, so that's where we are right now. And we're starting a new model today. And I've been thinking about his skin tone a lot. Just kind of thinking about it and thinking about hair color. He's got nice hair. His hair is sculpted well. It's not the dreadlocks look. It's actually like Bobby is evolving in his hair sculpting. So I have to compliment him on this guy's hair when we're at ReaperCon. And I'm also I've got a totally messed up sticky tack here. So I'm going to pull it off and knead it as if it is silly putty and get it into a better, stickier, more cohesive lump so that he will stick nicely on it. 44 months. Yes, and I saw you, Quindy. I do see you, Quindy. The 42-month resub at the start of the stream. I did see it. Sorry. I forgot to call it out. Must call out Quindy whenever I can. That just sounds wrong. But anyway, that's where we are today. That's where my brain is today. Also, my brain is in Patreon because today I decided to do a fun PDF for the $2 tier. I decided to do something on color composition. What is it? How do you use it? Yeah, we talk about color composition a fair amount on here, but I thought it would be good. Again, my Patreon these days is like, I really should put all of the things I think about X in one place. And that's pretty much my Patreon these days. And Babatuk has a subiversary. One second. Must scroll up, must confirm. Hold on, Kiki, we're going to sing. 12 months. It's the prime subiversary, the single subiversary. Happy subiversary, happy subiversary, happy subiversary, happy subiversary. There you go. All right. Yay. And Kiki was like, bored already. Oh, Keekster. Do we have a Korniko today? No problem. I haven't seen a Korniko yet. Maybe I'll have to wait. I'll have to wait for the Korniko. I have to show her the bird that showed up at my bird feeder. Although only once, and I don't know if it's going to be back, but, Sagebrush, I used to do musicals. I was in choir from the time I was, oh lordy, in second grade? Somewhere in there. But yeah, no, she's not here today then. Okay, I'll hold off on my bird picture. It's not a great bird picture. It's just a cool bird. But yeah, so I used to do musicals, and I was in swing choir. We went to Florida and performed at Disney World, stuff like that. I never had the lead because I was always, to be honest, I was always the fat girl, so I never could get the female lead, because you always needed somebody who was svelte and pretty for that. Roll of the eyes here. But I did get to play cool character roles, and I did get solos. So, yeah, my voice is out of shape these days. But I can sing. Ask Derek Schubert. He's seen me do Rock Band. But yeah, I keep thinking, you know, as I embrace my new life out here, that it would be kind of cool to find a choir group again. Like, the problem is I don't read music. I do it all by memory. I know like how to read music, right? But I don't use it as more than oh, my voice goes up here and I remember the note, right? So I do it all by memory and by rote. And so I don't know if that would handicap me trying out for a choir group out here. But I used to, actually, my favorite, what I really used to love is madrigal choir. And stuff like that. Of course, the voice I put on here is very, very jolly and silly, and not my pretty voice, so to speak, but you know. But yeah, I can sing along to songs. Whenever there's since they brought in the karaoke at ReaperCon, I've been kind of like, you know, one of these days I'll get up there and do a song. But yeah, so I used to do a lot of theater and a lot of singing, and I guess one thing that would be nice if I got out there and did some voice again was just that if I'm going to read my own books for audiobook, I'd like my voice to be a little bit more in shape. Like, it's not bad now, but my voice used to be like really good. Really, I could do the really smooth. And I feel like these days it could improve, right? Also, to be frank, if you exercise your voice regularly, you're less likely to get creaky old lady voice as you get older. I really don't want creaky old lady voice, because I really still enjoy singing. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. Your vocal cords get disused just like the rest of you as you get older. So that is where I am. And yes, it's allergy day. Hey, allergy pill, Quindy. Hold on. My eyes are teary and my nose is running. Just generally an Ann today. I hope you all are, well, not Ann's, but I hope you all are generally yourself today as well. Oh, hey, I want to show you guys. For those of you who did not attend my stream this weekend, I'm giving you all the eye. We did a cool thing. Hold on. We did a cool thing. We got the black done on this model. Yeah, they did it the last time I was there. I don't know if they repeated it. So we did the black in kind of a sparkly, almost sequiny kind of pattern. And then we did the kind of lacy effect here at the bottom of the dress. So I really was happy with how that turned out. So I thought I'd share that with you all. She's coming along really well. But now that I've done such nice spangliness on the black and the white, I really need to, I want to do some more sparklies on the red. So I'm going to totally sparkly her up, I decided. Just because it's really, I like the look of it. It still looks black, but it's really cool, and I'm just going to go with it. So yeah. So we're doing that. And I need to kind of redo her hair, too. I want to re-highlight her hair, but yeah, just a little bit more. But the black came up very nicely, and so now we are at the point where I want to kind of refine the red. Then I'll probably do the floor. Maybe I'll highlight the roses quick, but the roses are fast. They're just little and tiny, and it's going to be just little persnickety touches to bring out their design. Yeah, and then we'll see. I don't hate the brown. I just think it needs a little bit more on top of her head. But yeah, I'm doing the floor, and yeah, she's moving right along. She'll be for Andy Peeper. She's a present for him at ReaperCon. All right, we've got a nice goopy blue tack now. We can put Mellonir down on this. So, all right. So yeah, I've been thinking about this guy's skin tone. And also kind of thinking about what kind of greens do we want to do. Like, we could do really intense bright greens on him, or we could do, because Wood Elf, right? Wood Elf, obviously Wood Elf. Yeah, this blob is actually, yeah. Trying to press him down onto this is a fight. Don't fight with me, Blue Tack. I'm just going to leave. He's stuck on. He's stuck on really well. It's just, like, he's not, like, fully stuck on. Then, of course, we've got this arm, and I wanted to kind of see, I think we can put this arm on right away. Because I don't think, well, unless it's, I did want to do one final pass for mold lines, because I did see a sneaky little mold line just then. So yeah, while we clean off our little model of the remaining little mold lines, I washed him yesterday, but I did a cursory pass, but I forgot to look at this arm. We can talk about colors, like, because there's all sorts of colors you could do with a Wood Elf. I have done a lot of them when I had a Wood Elf army for Games Workshop. When I played Warhammer. But obviously red, browns, and various greens. But I mean, you've got every green from like olive to chartreuse and everything between it. That's really fair game, right? Just like we did with Lisette, right? We did her with a white green hair, and we did her with a greenish yellow dress. So we have a lot of greens we can use. The one thing I don't think I want to do with this guy is I don't want to take him super muted. So I think the only greens that are like off the table for me would be something like Medusa might be off the table. It's a little bit too gray olive for him, I think. I mean, you could certainly use it and go really sage with him, but I don't think I really want to go there. Do you guys have any thoughts? And of course, the green that you choose is going to impact all the other colors you choose on the model. So if you choose something really bright, then you're really limited because you have to make sure everything else is saturated. Whereas if you saturated or neutral. Whereas if you go a little bit more muted, you maybe have a little bit more wiggle room. That's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is that going slightly muted actually opens up your options, because most colors that you're dealing with in these paint ranges like Master Series are slightly muted. They've got a little bit of black or white or a complementary pigment in them. They are not just a pure pigment. They're not like eye-screaming bright. So if you have a favorite green, shout it out. I'll consider it. Olive greens are muted, but there are definitely more vibrant olive greens. Yeah, olive greens are automatically muted, Agent Marvel, because you make an olive green by either mixing yellow with black or yellow and green pigments with black. And when you add that black in, you are automatically muting the color. So olive greens are always going to be muted. But some are more muted than others. Just adding black, you can still get a very vibrant olive green. But when you start adding brown, or you start adding brown and white, the white mixes with the black and creates that gray. That's when you're really muting out. Yep, yeah. Since we did Meadow Green is not in the running, for sure. I don't know, I haven't looked at my greens over here very much lately. That one's out of print, so we can't use that one. That one's out of print. I should take those out of print ones out of there. Ooh. That's interesting. Emerald green. Which one is emerald? Oh, the metallic? No. Yeah. I would never use, like, a metallic because, I mean, he's mostly cloth and leather, right? So metallic really isn't suitable. if we had a, like if Ron was cool enough to create something like a Wood Elf Paladin, then you may be able to get away with that emerald green. With metal armor. Alright, so there we go. Got all of that pretty much cleaned up. I like this model, so I'm going to spend a little extra time making sure that I've got all the cleanness going, all the mold lines cleaned up. So we have a nice shiny surface to work from. I am looking forward to this month. It's free and clear. We have no travel, except for we want to take Kiki to the ocean at some point. It's my birthday month, and I always love my birthdays. No matter how old I get, I will always enjoy my birthdays. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I like a month where there's no travel and no crazy, because then I can just put my head down and work on the books. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with July. July is a Camp NaNoWriMo month. I have two choices. I can either... And the book will be at the editor by then, so I won't be working directly on West of the Moon anymore. So I can either start North of the Wind, or I can do the first book of Queenmaker. And I'm kind of thinking North of the Wind, but it gives me more time to edit it. All right, so you've got this nasty mold line all the way around the shield. As you saw, I took a lot of it off with my knife. I'm curious. Let me grab my diamond files and see how they do on this. Tianxia, I don't know if I want to work with Tianxia on this one. Yeah, it would make him very teal, which is not a deal breaker. And it has no coverage. Yeah, leverage, okay. Yeah, Naga, I see, because Naga is brighter. You know the best way, if you like muted greens, the best way to ease into using Naga? This will sound very counterintuitive, but it works. Agent Marvel, hold on. You need to use Naga to highlight Ancient Oak. Ancient Oak being a very muted blue, gray, green. But when you start adding Naga into it, you get warmer, richer highlights. And it actually does not mute down the Naga as much as you'd think. It makes a really nice, like semi-saturated is still muted, but it's really a vibrant, but still has the muted Ancient Oak in the shadows. It works really well. I did it on one of Gurm's models, one of my models for Gurm, and was pleasantly surprised with how beautiful the green turned out. Yeah. So I'm just curious as to how well the diamond file works on this, if at all. Bones material, typically, the diamond file is not a choice. But this might let me kind of take this down, and then I can use the knife. It is creating some paint boogers, but that's a problem with files on plastic, is you just don't typically get a great result. But here, yeah, it's not bad, but it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. Forest green is the blue, I believe. I've got pine, but I don't know if I've got forest in here. I'm getting a thought, though. I'm getting a thought. I'm ruminating, because I have here one of my favorite paints that I have not used in a long time. Jungle Moss. And I'm thinking. I haven't used that one either. I need to figure out what to shade it with. There needs to be something in between these two. I don't know. I'm going to mix them together. I don't know if it's going to work. I might need a little more yellow in the middle. But I'm going to choose, I think I might choose these two. I've always liked Boggart. I just haven't had a chance to like really find a good use for it. Let me just look at what else I've got in here. That doesn't look like it'll, well, maybe? Maybe. I'm thinking on it. I'm going to think on it. Or that's a little bit too much. Too punchy. Too punchy. Leaf bud's softer. No, plastic diamond files are really meant for metal. Twisted Doma. They're good on resin as well. Though be careful, always wear a mask when you use them with resin. Just checking my other paint spec here. Everything else is pretty bright. No, that's way too bright. All right. We're going to maybe try working with this stuff. The boggart is a little bit muted here. I'm probably going to add a little bitty bit of yellow to it. But this also gives us the option to do a white using this shaded with this. Like dropping this out and using just these two, like mix a little jungle moss into this to make it a shadow for white and bringing it up with white. Gives us the opportunity to do that. And then we can also go with it's still a muted green. It's not nearly as bright as those other greens I was flashing on the camera. So this is very different from anything we've done. I like that. It gives me the option to go with a dark, like we can do many different shades. Using these, picking 3 greens that we can make work together. Even though they immediately don't look like great, they're not obviously in a triad together. But choosing a mid and a dark and a light that are a little bit different allows us to actually use 3 different shades of green on this model, and they should intermix just fine. Like, remember, as long as you mix a little bit of one color into another, you can make these colors all work together, even if they're like, well... Like right now, I know these two are going to work great together, but I'm not sure on the boggart, but I really want to use the boggart because I haven't. And so I think this is where I'm at. Like boggart is almost a whitish green. It's almost an off-white. It's not quite an off-white. I probably can make it harmonize a little bit better by using some Osirian sand with it. And then that's good. And the reason that it's looking a little off versus the leaf bud is that it is more gray than the leaf bud. So usually you don't see a grayed out highlight, right? So, but it's not terribly gray. And so I feel like if I warm it up a little bit with this yellow, it's going to take it further from the gray and it's going to work with the leaf bud then, because this is a very warm color. So usually you don't, when you see this gray, you see it cooling. Like this looks like the warmest color here, except for that. And so you don't normally see a cool highlight unless there's a weird lighting effect going on. And you almost never see a grayed out highlight unless there's a lighting effect going on, a colored light. Oh yeah, I saw it this morning, but I just didn't have time. So yeah, I'll check it later. Thanks for the heads up, because other times I might not have seen it. But yeah, so in order to make this still work as a highlight for this, then I think I have to add a little bit of this. But otherwise, so I think that's where we are. That's very very leafy. We can do this. Yeah, so I think we're gonna rock that. So yeah, I feel as far as mold lines go, I feel like we'll put these aside a little bit, but I feel like the hobby knife is the way to go on Bones USA. I tend to scrape with it or shave with it. I feel like it's still the best tool, because although I was able to like kind of grind down this mold line, I feel like I need to shave it off really with the knife to get a good finish on it. Or you could use putty to do the opposite thing. And Dogfather with the Prime sub, 39 months. Almost the big 4-0. Almost. I am well past the big 4-0. David hits the big 4-0, I think. Did he this year? Yeah, I think he did this year, actually. That's right. David did hit the big 4-0 this year. He's like, grr. Alrighty. Now this mold line does kind of wrap into this area. It kind of goes around. You're seeing it kind of buries itself in here. We don't want that. So I'm going to actually kind of come at it from that direction with the knife and try to disrupt that little spiral of material. had to be careful. If you do impact the tree design a little bit, it's not a deal breaker. Just because you can always use paint plastic surgery to adjust it. And I use my fingernails a lot if I've got little bits of plastic. Try to clear out bits. There we go. There we go. But yeah, so I think June is going to be a good month. Hoping it will be a very productive month. My biggest challenge these days is not paying attention to my advertising. Like I'm running some ads on my book to try to figure out how it works. But it is very tempting to check them all the time, and so I'm having to. I've forbidden myself to check my ads all this week. I've got 2 campaigns that are ending this week, and 1 campaign that I just started that'll run through next weekend. Because I'm only doing them a week at a time. And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about what doesn't work with ad targeting. At least what doesn't work for me. So I'm glad I did it, even though I only have 1 book. And it's pretty much just sunk money because I'm never going to, get money back on it. The best I can hope to do is break even, and I doubt I'll do that. But, oh, sorry, resin. Here you go. Boop. This is it. Yeah, there we go with the Quindy with the link. But yeah, he's a great elf. He's such a nice elf that David actually ripped him out of the. Like I left him and the Illustri over by the sink, so I would remember to wash them for the streams this week. And David actually noticed this guy and ripped him out of his packaging to take a closer look at him. I walk by and the packaging has been violated, and I'm like, and then I realize what has happened. So it's funny. And I'm planning to do another email list promotion on East of the Sun in July. And then we're just going to kind of sit until the next book releases. And I will line up advertising for that launch. But that's where I am with my book career. Exploring ads, so that when it comes to it and I really need to run ads on the book or want to run ads, I will already know kind of what is working for me or not working for me. There we go. I'm going to back up a little bit. So we're just like finding the little mold lines. If it's the bottom here, I'm just going to chop it right off. When you've got a mold line, you know where the higher surface is and the lower surface. Just start from the lower surface and cut right across it if it's something like the bottom of a cape. Okay, so a little bit of it right here. I don't often sit in clean mold lines like more than just I missed a mold line on here, so I thought I would do it this time. There's a little bit of one up here. So when you got a mold line on a fold, this is where I really like the knife blade, where you can kind of scoop it in. Scoop it in and cut it out. It's the inside of a fold, so there isn't much at stake. You're not going to take off any detail. You just want to carve it out a little bit more and get rid of any of the little boogers that you pull up. Same with this one. Just going to get right on top of it and kind of scoop it out. And then I do use, like I said, my fingernails and stuff to see. Sometimes you can just take it right off that way. If you see little bits of threads of plastic that are still clinging. Then you gotta kind of look at it. Now is when a diamond file may actually be okay in these little surfaces, just to kind of unrough them, to to kind of buff them down a little bit. So not to take the mold line actually out, but to, if I have knife marks, a little judicious diamond filage will then remove those knife marks. And then I've got a little bit of a mold line up here. All these mold lines are pretty shallow and not very hardcore. It's good. Yes, they do that, Kodiak. They do that. They're insidious. They're like dribbles, kind of. So again, I can take my file and just kind of go over the surface just a real light. It'll make a little bit of fuzz, but that fuzz should clear itself up when you go back over it. You can use a stiff brush to remove the fuzz too. Now I need to look. Okay, we do have the dreaded hair mold line. Look at it. See it? Let me look at it. So not really on this side, but right here. So the way you tackle this is the same way. Actually, it's in reverse though. All right, so here we go. Other people like freak out when they see these. I really don't. Okay, so right away, you figure out, yep, here you go. Here's the magic, Wendy. Here's the Now, you can't just resculpt it with green stuff, and sometimes you're going to need to. Figure out where your highest and lowest part here, right? Because the mold line is like a shelf, right? So there's a lower part and a higher part. So looking at this, I can see that the lower part is toward the back of the head. See that ridge? And then the higher part is the top of the head. I am literally just going to cut that mold line right out of the hair. I'm going to go from the lower part, and I'm not using a huge heavy pressure here, but I'm trying to tackle it. Don't get the ear. The ear is not a mold line. There. So that removes a lot of it. It's just this little bit right here. Hold on. Then when you've got it there, when you've got it kind of leveled out, that's when you go in and you do like I did with a fold. Treat it like a fold, right? It's just a fold with texture. So very gently kind of scoop your knife into the big crevices there. Like that big crevice there, I managed to take that piece out. You can also go back and do the whole, going up this way again if you realize you've still got a little bit of unevenness. Will you flatten out the hair this way a little bit? Yes, you will, but at least you won't have a mold line. And once you paint it, it won't really be noticeable. So already it looks 50 times better. Are those just little, just like nail sticks, like little sandpaper sticks? A lot of sculptors use those. I find them too big for some of the fine work. That's why I have my tiny diamond files, but they're good for a lot of other. Really, it's the tool. If the tool works for you, use it. All right, so essentially, I have managed to remove mold lines from the hair. So come up underneath, take the mold line out, then go in with your knife and scoop in those intermediate areas. And then the last thing, and this works better with metal, so I don't know how it's going to work on the plastic here, but if you have flattened out and lost texture, you've got two options. One, you could just paint it. You can paint that texture in. Paint plastic surgery. It works just fine for hair. In fact, I prefer painting hair when there isn't a lot of sculpted texture. The other thing, if you really want to have those lines in there, is you can take your knife, dig it in just a little bit, and again, do that kind of scalloped thing. You're essentially making a cut. You see how I put that cut back in there? That will simulate like those hair strands. So it'll give you the guide back a little bit. It'll give you a little bit of sculpted texture back. The only other way to do it is to put some green stuff over the top and kind of resculpt the area. But you can kind of line your knife up with that strand that Bobby originally sculpted. and scallop it. And you might need to go back over the top because you've scooped out material, so you need to scrape again. But it gives you a little bit more texture. Emery board, yeah. Yep, yeah, the hobby sticks. I've got a couple of them. I just early on in my hobby career developed a propensity for knife work, and I do a lot with the knife, and diamond files are like, I like that they make them in such tiny shapes. So if I need to go in really small areas, I can. And if we've got a little bit of roughness here, we need to kind of tackle that. But we have removed the mold line from the hair. Ta-da. So when you see them, you'll be tempted to go, no, but it's not a lost cause, guys. It's not. It is, you have to go slowly and just be careful and be conscientious of what you're doing and try different tools and see what works for you. But I do need a little bit more taken off up here. The one thing I will say in favor of styrene is just that I can use the mold line removal tool, just scrape with the back of the knife. Here on the Bones USA, it doesn't work as well. It works a little bit. So when you scrape with the back of the knife, you're not cutting into the surface, but you can slowly remove material on things like styrene. So especially Games Workshop models and other models that are cast in styrene, hobby kit stuff. And unlike here where it's giving me a little bit of a rough texture, on styrene it won't give you a rough texture. All right, so there we are. You can remove that. Okay, I think this guy's almost set. I'm just gonna check. I don't see any other. I see a little bit of a burr right here. Looking at the bow, we do have a little bit of a mold line wrapping around the bow. I'm kind of sad he doesn't have a fancier bow. His bow is very plain. But that's okay. I guess we won't, maybe he's just a simple elf. He just prefers a simple bow. All right, he's got a fancy shield. That's where all his fancy. His fancy all goes into his shield. I think we're good. But yeah, I'm not really even filing with this file. I'm using the tip of it to poke at the surface and just kind of rubbing it smoother. Alrighty. I think we're good. I think I did actually impact the tip of his ear. So I'm going to reshave it a little bit. He does have a little bit of flash around the edge of the ear. So we'll try not to make him a human. So that little bit of flashing at the tip of the ear, I can hit with this. I should be able to take it right off with gentle work. There we go. Yeah, I try not to make my mistakes into battle scars. Usually if the ear is sticking out of the hair, it's elfy enough anyway. Just want to make sure there's no artifacts there. Okay. Looking good, looking good. There we are. All right. Let us just grab this part again. I think I'm looking okay. I can use the file to smooth it a bit, and then we'll put this arm on, or we'll at least dry fit the arm and see. Because it looks like it just goes out. Am I right? Or maybe it goes forward. I don't think it's going to interfere with anything, so I think we can socket it in. It does have a ball that looks like, but it looks like the ball here is a little bit, the hole is deeper than the ball, so I might need to pin it. We shall see. We shall see. Oh, a little bit of mold line there. So yeah, not for taking the bulk of a mold line off, but for just kind of smoothing out the area afterwards. I'm okay with the diamond file. Okay. And looking at the sword, we look pretty good. So, all right. Let us grab a... David better not have stolen my clippers again. Oh, they're probably in the other room just because I have, oh no, there they are. I misplaced them. They were in the wrong place in the drawer. All right. Let's get this arm off and see. I'm going to cut it with extra stuff. I'm not going to cut it right up against the ball. I'm actually going to try to cut it so there's extra material. And then I'm going to do a little bit of refinement, and I'm going to try to leave as much of this ball socket, the ball joint here, as I can. Since it looked like the ball was shallower than the socket, I might be able to leave a little extra material to make it fit. So now we've got kind of a squared off area that we need to round off in line with where the socket is. Again, I'm going to use knife here. Nice thing about Bones USA is it's nice soft material, so the knife goes through it very well. I'm going to reshape this ball and try to leave a little extra material. And we will use our file to kind of finish it off a little bit. There we go. So I've left quite a bit of material now on this ball. Look at how much bigger I've made it. The regular Bones minis, I agree with you. Bones USA is a firmer substance. So this is far more pleasurable to work with, frankly, the Siocast is. The regular Bones, I agree with you. It's really hard to take mold lines off of the standard Bones material because it's so soft. All right, so we'll see how that does. I did make that socket, that ball, a lot deeper. So I want to see how it fits. Because I could just see that this socket was quite deep. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, so how do you go? You don't go that way. I didn't look at this model in the store to see how it goes. Looks like that. And if this is the pose, then I can say with confidence that it's not going to interfere with anything. And that was the whole point of kind of figuring this out, was just to see when I put it in, is it going to make it impossible for me to paint anything or make it harder for me to paint anything? I do need to cut down the ball a little bit more. But in general, it fits really well. The pommel does come pretty close to this little pouch. But it's not, it doesn't make it impossible, and it's going to shade that pouch anyway. It's in the shadow, you see. So I don't need a lot of detail there anyway. All right, I'm going to wear this ball down a little bit more. Yeah, Siocast. No, 3D printed is a whole different beast, and Reaper's only just starting with that. So, and they'll have a different item number. This is definitely Bones USA. I think he's technically Dungeon Dwellers, but Bones USA is all Siocast, to my knowledge. So now I'm going to round off this socket, or this ball, just a little bit more so that it fits in the socket a little bit better. It's really close to a perfect fit. And I don't care if there's little bits and pieces of side material left on this. It doesn't need to be smooth. It just needs to fit. Okay. Yeah, printed won't have mold lines. There's only a 2-part molding process will give you mold lines. And as to which material I like, there we go, perfect fit. Look at us, how flush that is now. That's very good. So that's just perfect. And I made the ball a little bit bigger. It fits in the socket now pretty well. This is where we have to call it and say, okay, do we want to pin this arm? It does seem to have a really nice fit. It doesn't, when I wobble it, it sits pretty well in that socket. The smart thing is to pin it, but at the same time with plastic, you know, I actually find support marks to be annoying. I actually will say that I do find support marks possibly more annoying than many, because this guy actually had an exceptional amount of mold line on him for a Bones USA figure. Like, normally I don't run into nearly this much on a Bones USA. I really hate those little support nubbins. But to each their own. They're about equivalent. All right, so yeah, it is, but you could mess it up, right? Like, the reason that I would not pin it, you know, being an experienced pinner, we all know that, you know, it's best practice, but you probably don't have to. With plastic, you often don't have to, because the glue will really set the plastic hard and kind of bond it together a bit. And you, especially if you're working with a styrene model, styrene glue actually does melt the parts together. But because this is such a lightweight model, it's probably going to stick it just fine. With metal, you would definitely want to pin this, because a metal model is hard and heavy enough that when it hits the ground, it will snap. Like, the weight of the model will put an extra strain on this joint. But this is plastic. If we drop it, it's going to bounce, and the glue is probably a strong enough bond to hold this arm on, even if it does hit the ground. So yes, because it's got a nice deep socket, and because it fits so very well and so very flush, I do not need to pin it. The risk in pinning it would be that I don't get the pin quite the right direction, and I don't get that nice flush fit that I'm getting right here. And so that would be the risk in pinning it. Oh, okay, they're putting 3D into the Bones USA line, but they should have arm print in the description. Okay, Roger, thanks, Quindy. Yeah, so not in the Monday meetings anymore, so, you know, I don't know. I don't know everything. Quindy does. Quindy's the fly on the wall for me. All right, so I'm going to just use glue, because I want that nice fit that I've managed to get through my architecture of the ball joint. So we will glue them together, and then we will figure out a skin tone. But first my glue has to come out. And this, honestly, I should get a new bottle of Zap Gap, because this glue is getting a little old. I don't want that much. Less is more with super glue, if you've never heard that. The more glue you put in, the longer it will take to set. And I'm just going to hold that there. Fun science fact for you, if you didn't know that, you know, you blow on your super glue, it's not actually your breath, but it's the moisture in your breath that causes the super glue to bond. That's why Zip Kicker works. You know, it puts the moisture into the glue, and it's a particular compound that freezes it faster than standard moisture. That is pretty good. I'm going to let that kind of sit there while I think about... Yes, don't fuss at Quindy if it's not tagged properly. She is not personally entering in all the tags into Reaper's system. But yeah, so... All right, so we've got... honestly, any skin tone will work with this. We have... probably with greens, you're going to want to go... if you want a complementary, you would go with a pinker skin tone, but I'm not certain that I want to do that. With Lizette, we went very dark brown, and I know I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. So but I'm not adverse to going a little darker than our standard skin tone. So if you were, you would be more likely to be right. Yes. Agree. Agree. Total agree there. Hold on. I'm going to put away my file since we are past the filing and past the snipping. I can put away my tools. Best practice is put away tools where you will be able to find them immediately again. There. Blame dark magic. So actually I can set him down here, and that arm is at a good angle to kind of just be set. And all right, so I'm going to talk a bit about skin tones here. We could use a darker... I have never done that. So I was talking about how versatile tan skin was, and we used this, if you recall, to do her skin tone, which is more of a golden skin tone. More, I wanted a more Latina skin tone. I think, Sophie, we were using tan skin modified also. We certainly used tan skin mixed with the russet brown for here, but here we've got more of a blushy color here. I think we used standard tan skin for Sophie because that was the closest thing to what I used to use. Oh, no, that's right. We mixed tan and rosy shadow because that was the closest to the original Sophie skin color. It's not an easy paint the way I did Lizette, Richard. Not an easy paint at all. But... so one thing that we can do with tan skin, if you want to make a darker skin tone, but not a dark skin tone, but you want, say, a darkly tanned skin tone. So one of those lucky people who turn just nice and brown when the sun hits them instead of burning and blistering like me, like a lobster. So we can mix any other brown into tan skin. If we want a reddish brown sunburned skin, that's what we did with our herbalist. If you remember her a long time ago. We used a red brown mixed in to get that color. You can also mix any number of other browns into it. I'm thinking about using saddle brown on this one. I've never done a tan skin with saddle brown in it, skin tone. Saddle brown does have a bit of red in it, so it could be. Oh yeah, but I mean I painted her yellow, Richard, and yellow is usually and it's a greenish yellow too. Like, nothing about my color choices on Lizette was easy. And then you look at the freehand. And plus it's a dark skin tone, which you have to work to make, like, show up. But yeah. Yeah, I would look at, yeah, exactly, yellow. The minute I say yellow, people are like, I would advise you to look at Jennifer Haley and Derek Schubert's paint jobs on her, which are on the original Lizette model. So if you look up Lizette, go to the original metal version and you'll see that. I don't know if they're all like tied together in the store, but they both have beautiful color schemes on her with soft greens, softer like sage greens, and they're gorgeous. So I would highly advise going and looking at the way that our other painters, our other super pro painters have painted her in the past. Yeah, there we go. So if you look at those color schemes, there's some absolutely gorgeous ideas on there. Very wood elfy. Alrighty, so I'm going to have to write down and swatch out my green colors because I'm not actually going to start with them, but I want to remember which ones I'm using. And I want to maybe get a base down on this. I'm gonna try this the saddle brown tan skin. But yeah, in theory, you can mix almost any red, reddish brown, or brown into tan skin and get a cool skin tone, except for the browns that have a lot of black in them, like walnut and blackened. You might even be able to use blackened, but I don't think I would. There's still a lot of black in there, so you can do all that. You can mix any of this stuff into the skin, the tan skin, and get an interesting result. So we will continue to demonstrate the flexibility of tan skin and why you should own 3 bottles of it at all times, if you're me. And we'll do a mixture with saddle. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start with 4 drops of tan skin. I'm going to put 2 drops of saddle brown in there. This is a little purpley. It's reddish, but it's purplyish, so I'm not sure how it's going to look, but you never know until you try. Probably one of the more straightforward ways to do it would be to use russet brown, but I'm in the mood to do something a little different, so saddle it is. So that color combo looks like that. I'd put 1 drop of water in for mixification purposes. Yeah, I don't paint enough yellow. We need to get another model that I can paint yellow. Maybe I'll do a Listerili in yellow. Yeah, actually, that's in my brain now. I think I haven't done enough yellow. Should have done Jolie in yellow, but we're doing blue, so it is what it is. All right, so when we mix that together, we get it actually takes it, it's very natural, actually. It's a very natural shadow for this. I think I'm going to pop more of the saddle brown in. Do another drop. Take it a little darker. There we go. And it's taken a little more muted because this is a little bit of a grayed out color. But I think that will work quite well. So we'll try that. Oh, right. Yeah, you did. You're right, we did. I'd removed her from my shelf over to the finished section, so I'd forgotten that we did Olivia, or whatever her name is. Not Olivia, it's a different clerk, but you know, that lady. Okay. This might not be dark enough. I'm going to put it on and see how it dries. He's another one with, he's got bare hands, actually. He's got bracers and bare hands, so he does have a little bit of skin tone on him. I am pretty tempted to make him a blonde, but... So always make sure you paint, kind of, pay attention to the underside of the face when you've got these big, deep eye sockets. It's easy to miss parts. And I'll be mixing up a shadow. I think I'll be mixing up a shadow color for the skin tone. Now, it's hard to judge how dark or light the skin tone is because we have nothing else on this model at all. So if we were painting this model in a very dark color scheme, then this skin tone is going to look a lot lighter. And if we paint him, we're painting him more with lighter colors though. So the skin tone is probably going to end up looking darker, especially once I add shadows. So let me get more of this over here. And of course we can be a little messy on this step because, well, we don't have anything else on the model painted, so it really doesn't matter if we splash paint on other parts. You're going to catch it with the lining anyway. That's a little bit too much paint though. Sometimes I go a little overboard. So as it dries, you can notice that it's drying darker than it looks wet. See? And doing this, I mean, all skin tones are muted, but doing actually this a little bit even more muted, I think will work with us, with our color scheme. So that is a 4-3 tan skin to saddle brown. You probably could add another drop of saddle, to be honest. Oh, can't forget the ears. I always forget the ears on elves because I'm just not used to ears coming out through the hair. I always forget the ears. So it's a little bit of a darker Caucasian skin tone. A little more earthy. And we can double down on that with some shadows if we add a bit more of more of a brown. Another color similar to nut brown or saddle brown, we could use nut brown, although nut is a little bit more, it's much more darker and purple. It's got a lot more black in it, so maybe not. We might be able to use it to kind of shade with, though. Those are the Bones Weird Browns. I have a whole PDF on the Bones Weird Browns in the Patreon if you are in the $5 tier or higher. Did it a while ago, probably a year or more ago. I am going to go back. I've decided, like, after so many years of doing content, it's time for me to go back and remake some of my earlier video stuff. And replace them with newer videos that look nicer, look better. So I'm going to go revisiting my archive and doing some new takes. Also, as any painter does, the way that I did things back in the day has probably changed just a little bit. So it is nice to be able to go and update some material and add in some new notes on it. There we go. So a second coat. You can always glaze it up or down. I don't often do light glazes because they're harder. They're much harder. But I do it on skin regularly. The problem, though, Turgeon, is if you, like if I use the nut brown having a lot of black in it, you can really compromise the look of the skin because the black will give it a very ashy tone. Because you've got a lot of white in these skin tones because they're lighter, right? They're not like an African skin tone. So that definitely means you've got more white, and when you add a color that's got a lot of black to a color that's got a lot of white, you gray out, and that's where you don't really want this skin tone to be. I don't want to take it, this is base color, so I'm going to throw some shadows on it because I don't really want the base to go darker. I'm going to mix. If you get a wash effect, then you're not taking all the paint off. You got to remember to remove all the paint, Kodiak, after you put it on. Like you need to, if you see puddles, you've got to pull it out. And if you are seeing puddles, but it isn't drying weird, then unless you're using a glazing medium, then probably it's too thick. Glazes should be really thin. Really, really thin, and you pull all the excess away. So you really just leave one thin film of paint over the top of the model. I did thin this base color before I decided to add my second coat on. Once I've got that first solid coat on with heavier paint, then I will thin it with another drop and go back over with a thinner coat. I did thin my first coat. It was just a little thicker than I usually do. I think, oh well, that's just more reason to do my glazing video, I guess. That is the thing. Alrighty, let's see here. Nut brown. Now, yeah, eventually I'll get that Mini Painter Fundamentals video. I should get it this month. I feel like I've got some time this month. Of course, I always feel like that at the beginning of the month. All right, I'm going to actually grab 1 drop of nut brown, and I'm going to transfer some of this skin color into a well with it to see if I like it as if it'll create a nice shadow color for me. 1 nice drop. It's much darker. Nut brown is kind of a sub for the volcano brown colors, as I mentioned in the Weird Browns Triad, the Weird Bones Weird Browns PDF. So I'm going to just put 1 big brush over here. Yeah, that's nice. All right, I can work with this. That's a good brown. So I'm going to use this for a shadow color. But yeah, so it's actually a color I would use for dark elves if I was going for a darker skin tone with a purpley hint. I would use this for dark elves. If you want that gray purple thing, then use Dark Elf Skin from MSP. Some people like their Dark Elves to be grayish or bluish purple. I did a whole PDF on that too, back in the day. This is kind of where I would line as well. I'd like to base and then line. Could grab some brown liner, and we'll do that and the shading, and that should take us to the end. Yeah, I took a whole bunch of 28mm Dark Elf models, and I just showed a bunch of different skin tones on them. Kodiak. So you can see different paints. But I think the Dusky Skin Triad is in there, and that's gone, and this is what I would use to recreate that. I don't remember if it was already gone when I did that PDF. It may have been. I liked Dusky Skin better. It was more the... I like my Dark Elves to be brown-skinned instead of gray or blue or purple. But that's my preference, so... Same with Fire Giants. Everybody has their preference with the fantasy stuff. Everybody does. Usually based on pieces of art that from your favorite books, right? Alrighty. Oop. Oakley dokley. So I do like to, after I get this in, I'd like to line, and the reason is that otherwise when you're painting the skin first, you don't really have a reference for dark, right? Unless you're working over a black primer. And then that's going to throw you off in the opposite direction, but since I don't really use black primer, I like to bring in this simple elemental level of shading that lining is. It kind of helps me judge how light or dark my highlights are going. Using brown liner gives me a much more naturalistic effect. It's not as dark or as stark as walnut. But you can see how that frames the face. There we go. Just do a simple shadow behind those fingers. Since you haven't done anything on the shield, you can just kind of block around the fingers. You don't need to be real tight there. You're going to paint over it anyway. And that also brings out that hand. Then I do line between the fingers at this point. Since it's only base coat, now is the time to line between the fingers, in my opinion, because there's no stress to doing so. It's very easy to paint over if you make a mistake, since you've only base coated. I like this model. I think this is going to be a good model. I have a feeling. I have a feeling in my bones. But yeah, you should be able to search Dark Elf to find that. I mean, I tag everything, so if you type in Dark Elf, it maybe give you Dark Elf skin as an option. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we can line the fingers. Turn the model upside down so you have a good angle of attack on that. And again, I blurfed a little bit on that finger, but that's not a big deal because I've got my base coat and I just go right over it. So I'll grab my base coat and touch up any place where my lining got a little out of hand, or I feel like I need it to be neater or maybe not so heavy. Refine those fingers, and there we go. I need to get the tops there. I need to figure out today what models I want to use for my color composition PDF. That'll be fun. I do like having access to all of David's trove of models, his collection, because he's kept all his stuff and he commissioned other painters, other great painters, to paint stuff for him. So, hi Keekers. Yeah, you're right, it is. It is almost time. Hi. Hi, Keekers. How do you know? How do you know? Hi. I've got a big floofy dog next to me. Big floofy dog. No, I use brown liner. Nut brown isn't dark enough. I use nut brown to mix the skin shadow for my skin tone. So one drop of nut brown and one brush full of my base skin color. Yeah, it's that time, Brozard. She's just checking in on me to see if it's really that time or if Mama is still in the middle of this stuff. So when I shade, I'm going to shade the underside of the nose, the underside of the brows here, and underneath the chin with this shadow color that is the nut brown. Oh, I need to do the eyes too and the line of the mouth, but I can do this first. When everything is smaller, you need more contrast in your shadows. Underneath that lower lip, underside of the jaw. Even though there's a natural shadow here, I will still paint it in. And maybe a little bit on this side of the face and the cheekbone shadow here. I'll also put some rosy tones in there, but not quite yet. All right, so beneath the brows, underneath the nose, a little tiny bit underneath that lower lip and the lower jaw, and then a little bit under the cheekbones, and we're looking pretty good on shading on the face. I'm going to put a little bit in the interior of each ear too, and I need a line around those ears, and I need to add, I need to line the eyes and the mouth. But yeah, so this is definitely a little bit of a cooler skin tone that we're using. We've cooled it off by muting it with those browns. So it's not as warm. It's definitely not a golden skin tone. Now always fill in the eyes with liner at this stage. Because otherwise the face just looks more and more unfinished to me. And this is another one of those faces where you have to come at it from the other direction or be very careful going over the nose. Probably need to go over here to get the interior corner of the eye. That looks about right. Pretty dark. And then really, really thin line. Make sure your tip of your brush is real thin. And again, this is a good time to do the line of the mouth because you only have base coated the face. You're not going to mess anything up except your base coat, and it's super easy to paint that over. The mouth here is very well defined. It's very well sculpted, so putting that line in there is really simple. Walkies usually don't happen until 11:15, to be fair, or even 11:30. Usually we're back here around noon, which is when I make my lunch. But she is an optimistic dog, and sometimes Mama gets off the stream early. So, but that's only when we're on time, Kiki. And the internet made us late today. The lack of internet made us late. She's so sad, so unhappy yesterday because she didn't get her... Sundays when I go to Right Club, she doesn't get her morning walk because I don't come back until like 12:15, 12:30. So Sundays are non-walkies. Every other Sunday is a non-walkies day, and she was definitely disgruntled about it yesterday. She really wanted one. She was totally spoiled when we went to Yosemite because whenever David was bored, he's like, it's time for a walk, and he just would take her out. So she got extra walks. So I'm just going to shade this line of hair that comes down around the ear, and I'm going to drop a shadow all over behind the ear. And I'm going to paint all around that, but I'm going to go over it with the hair color. But right now, having a little bit of underpainting here is not a bad idea. Especially if I do go lighter with his hair. It'll remind me to put a shadow there. I'm using brown liner for all the lining. So all the lining between the fingers, around the face, around the ears, all of that is brown liner. And the line of the mouth and filling in the eyes is brown liner. Yeah, the really dark eyes. He'll definitely, they'll lighten up as I, go over them, but... And I won't do the eyebrows because I don't know what hair color he's got yet. We don't know. We might do a redhead. We might do something completely different. Who knows? It's all up in the air. It's interesting. I'll have to figure it out. Going redhead is a kind of an obvious choice with the Wood Elf because then you throw in a complementary color, or at the worst, another secondary color, because green, orange, purple. So if you go with a very orangey, or even a strawberry blonde, then you're going to end up with the green orange of that. Because you don't need to use all three colors, remember. You don't need to use green, orange, and purple. You don't need to use red, orange, or red, yellow, and blue. You only need 2 of those 3 colors to make it look good. I think she's just going to start liking us going on vacation, Pendrake. That's my hope, is that she used to go on lots of trips with us this year. There's 3 big trips for Kiki this year. July is Seattle to visit David's folks. And then ReaperCon in September. And then in the first week of November, we're going to Colorado for the Shiloh Shepherd National. So all those big road trips, and she already went to Arizona, and she already went to Yosemite. So my hope is that she's gonna learn to like, even though she gets still a little queasy on the bye Crowley, on the road. So I have to give her the Dramamine, but she's definitely happier with her Dramamine. But she's a good car dog, and my hopes is that she will get really acclimated to the road and enjoy it. Blazey always liked it because she got to come up on the bed in the hotel rooms. And I started really early with her traveling as well. So if you want your dog to be a good traveler, start early. Start while they're still puppies. And use Dramamine if your puppy has car sickness, which a lot of them do. And a lot of them will outgrow it, but they still have a little queasiness. That was Kiri, and I feel like it's Kiki too. So we'll see as she gets older, she may completely outgrow it. Leo was car sick when he was a baby, but he loved the car, and he definitely outgrew his dislike of it. So yeah. All right, so we've got a good start on that model. Now let's really quick, let's do our card. I need to do a card. And for that, I need a card, a blank card. All right. We'll write down his name on it, and I'm going to put down my skin colors, and since I'm using a weird batch of greens, Mellonir. I'm going to swatch these guys out real quick. Base color. Oh, I see it. I see a flash there. Good eye. Good eye. There actually isn't a mold line down the inside here, but in the back there is, and it was hidden before. So we'll just have to grab that Twistodoma. Good eye. All right, there's the shadow. And then I can write that down. 3, 4. We got saddle brown and 9044. And then it's this plus 1 drop nut brown. A lot of the core colors, I have the item number just in my head automatically. Otherwise, if it's a color I don't use very often, I write out the name. So I don't have to stop and say, what color is that? And then I'm going to go and just touch this in real quick. So I'm going to put a little drop of each of these. And then I'm going to brush them out. I've got to shake my leaf bud green because it's very fresh. There, I think it's okay. Leaf bud. We'll line up these colors now and look at it. Look at them. Uh-oh. Clog! There. Leaf bud is just a little bit bright. But once we shade and highlight it, it's going to work just fine. Let's see here. Actually, I need big black base because this is looking dark. Here. There we go. And then Boggard and Osirian. Let's do a mixture of that. So let's do... So that's definitely grayish, and it's not working as well, but I'm going to test here. Now, one option, if you are working with a color like this and you're like, well, my highlight is gray and my shadow is grayer and I've got this bright mid, and I'm afraid that'll be too bright, the thing you can do is never use that bright mid intact. You can always add a little bit of your highlight or a little bit of your shadow to it. That's one way you can deal with that. So let's do this. And then this. I'll just mix it up over here. Kind of make a transition so you can see that transition. Then these guys get mixed together first. And I do like that a little bit better. And then they're going to go over here. And I'm going to actually add a little bit more leaf bud so I can get that transition a little bit wet blended. So I can see it. we go. So that's the triad then that we're kind of working with. And I'm going to write down my key. And we'll get that up there so we can see it. All right. So we've got a very dark, dark, and a pretty light, light. That's good. That gives us a very broad range that we can work with. And I think these colors are all going to work together. I think we're going to be fine. Alrighty, let me write down what I got here. Yeah, jungle moss. I'm glad to be using jungle moss. I really like jungle moss. That's 9082. It's a really high coverage, as you can see, a really high coverage, really dark green. It's a muted green. It's darker and higher coverage than ancient oak. Plus leaf bud. Plus boggard. Osirian 1-to-1. Okay. And then if I have to go up further, I'm going up with Osirian. Osirian and white. So sometimes I'll just do this on the card and just like I am right now and just kind of look at it. Yeah. That looks nice. There we go. So that's, and it all looks good together. It all works. You could even get a little bit more red with the leather, but knowing that I did a nut brown mix here, what I'm probably going to do is go with nut brown and saddle brown for the leathers. And that the saddle brown does have a fair bit of red in it, so that is going to bring in a red tone. It's going to be very muted, right? So we're going to go with more of a muted tone, but we can also intensify parts. So yeah, so there we go. And we have gone to quarter after, so I've made up. Leaf bud is not a high coverage color, but it is a beautiful color and we needed it. That's why I made it. I really, really love that color. Yeah, you guys all have a great afternoon, hopefully. And tomorrow is Mouseling Day. Mouseling Day. Where we were working with his red, remember? And the red on his pink parts. To really bring this out, we started with the leather texture on the hat. So we'll probably keep going with the leather texture on the hat. And maybe we'll do a little bit more. I feel like I really went brown with this on the hat when originally I was going to go more of a dark color, but maybe we'll bring the boots up brown and really just go with that color over the whole thing. I don't know. I'm of two minds on it. I'm liking it. I can always throw a blue shade over the top of this. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But yeah, so we're going to play around with leather, I think, a lot tomorrow. A lot. To see how it's coming together. That is my conviction. We're going to spread it all out. Unfortunately, the only place we can do all this really fancy texture is mostly up here on the hat and on the belt. The boots are going to be, I think, a different texture because you've got too many folds and stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Alrighty. Yep. It is time for a Kiki walk. And and so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much for hanging out. Quindy, thank you for herding the cats. And see you tomorrow morning, folks. Bye.